Hello everyone and welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to continue showing you about the zonal statistics tools, specifically how to work with many zonal stats tables and joining them onto a single data source. In the process, I'll show you a new tool in the toolbox, the Join Field tool, which will help us permanently attach data to our original data table, and then I'll also show you how to rename fields in ArcGIS. Okay, so let's jump in. So first, a little bit of orientation. This is basically the same data we were working with before, except I also have a slope raster, and we still have the census places. And so we have the slope raster here and the digital elevation model. And then I've also already generated the zonal statistics tables for the elevation and the slope. Remember that the zonal statistics extracts data from a raster and summarizes the cells in a raster within a polygon's area and provides us with those statistics as a field. But when we use the zonal statistics as table tool, it provides a table back to us that we then need to join back to our original data. So in this case, I use the census places polygons, and in the process got this data table as a result that I need to join back to the census places data. Now in the last lecture, we used a standard join, and used the join tool here and created the join just within the map document. So I selected the object ID field from the census places table, and I selected the zonal stats elevation table, and then I selected the object ID 1 field because that's the field that actually contains the input data's object ID, its primary key, right? It added a new primary key to the table output, but the primary key field that references the original input is the object ID 1 field. In most cases it doesn't matter, but when it does, it's important. So if I click OK, it adds the join, and then when I open the census places table, I can see my zonal stats table appended at the end. Well, this works fine, but let's join in the slope table now. So I'll select object ID again and zonal stats slope because it's the only unjoined table. Again, I'll select object ID 1. And click OK. We have a problem now. I have fields with the same sorts of ambiguous names. Now in this case I can deduce what they are because the slope is only up to 90 and the elevation goes much higher than that. But if I didn't have data that was that clear, if I had more ambiguous data, it'd be much harder to figure out what these fields meant. In this case, I can right click and go to properties and I see the original table. But if I wanted to export this data and make it permanent, I would still have ambiguous fields. So let's resolve this in a sane way. I could join one table, export the data, rename the fields, join another table, and keep doing that, but there's a much better way and it uses a new tool. So let's remove our joins really quickly. I'll remove all joins. And let's take a look in data management tools. In the joins toolbox, there's the add join tool, which is the same as what we just did. It adds the join temporarily for the map document. And then the remove join is what we just did a moment ago, which is we removed all the joins from the table. But the join field does something nice for us. It does it permanently. So let's bring that up. And it's similar. We have our input table and its join field, and the table we're joining data from to it, and the field that matches it, so the primary key and the foreign key, right? So let's select those, and I'll select my census places table and the object ID again, and I'll select my elevation table and its foreign key. But now I can select just the fields I want here. So let's say I just want the minimum, maximum, and mean elevation. I can just check those in this box. And when I click OK, it runs the tool. It locks the data for a moment. And when it's done, I don't see any outward changes, but if I go to open an attribute table, I see the data there. And in this case, it's permanent. If I right click and go to properties, it's a field on the table. It doesn't have a table name prefix here. So this data is permanently in the table. Now, if I was just to go run the tool again, I'd run into the same problem I just had where I'd have ambiguously named fields. In this case, it would add a 1 to the end of the new field. So if I joined in the slopes zonal stats now, I would still have a problem. But this method is much quicker and leaves me still with just one feature class if I now go rename these fields before I go add a new join to it. So let's go do that now. If I go to ArcGIS, I can go find that data, and it's this right here. And if I go to Properties on the Census Places layer and scroll to the bottom, again, I get proof that these are permanent fields. They're not just temporary in the map document until I export it. They are permanent fields. And now I can highlight the field, and I can say min elevation, and then max elevation, or mean elevation. Now, if I wanted to export these eventually to a shapefile, I might consider naming them more short names, but for now, this is great because this is a file geodatabase data. And when I click OK, it renames the fields and it updates it in my attribute table for me live in the map document. So those are named now, and now I'm going to go join in the slope information, and the fields won't be ambiguous anymore. So when I select my census places and its join field, the object ID field, and then the slope table this time, and its foreign key, the object ID 1 field, and let's say this time I want the mean, range, min, and max. I'll click OK, and again we'll go through that permanent join. It's permanently attaching that data to the underlying attribute table instead of just giving me a join in the current map document. And now I have min and max, but since I already renamed min elevation and max elevation, I no longer have to wonder which field named min is the minimum elevation and which field named min is the minimum slope. And again, I can go into ArcGIS, and this time I should probably right click on the geodatabase and refresh it so that ArcGIS updates its information since I added new fields, even though I already loaded all the information about this feature class. I'll go to the Census Places 2015 layer, and I'll right click again and go to Properties. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I still see my min elevation, max elevation, and mean elevation, but I see my new fields I added. So now I'll name them min slope. I'll hit tab twice to go to max slope, hit tab twice again. I'll go to, and I'll call it range slope just to be consistent, and then mean slope. And now I'll click OK. And once again, it updates the table for us in the feature class, and these fields update live. This is a great way to manage working with zonal statistics. If I have many more zonal statistics tables, like maybe I'm working with 12 different rasters or 15 different rasters or hundreds of different rasters, eventually I'm going to need to join these all in. And this is a sane way because I still keep one feature class. I'm not exporting many copies of my feature class. I keep my one copy of my feature class, and then I add the fields incrementally and rename them. So I have good data management and I know exactly what my fields are. This workflow is going to become very important to you if you use the Zonal Statistics as table tool very much, and many of you probably will. So if you get a chance to download the practice data for this video, I recommend giving it a try a couple times. Okay, that's it for this lecture. In this lecture, I showed you how to appropriately join data from a zonal statistics workflow back to your original data in a sane way that helps you keep your field information straight. In the process, we learned about the join field tool, which permanently joins data from a table to a feature class or to another table. And we also learned how to rename data in ArcGIS by right-clicking on the layer, going to Properties, and going to the Fields tab and changing the names of a field and clicking OK. Hopefully, you should now be able to work with the Zonal Statistics as table tool. It's really useful. I love this tool, and I think you'll find it's a lot of fun. See you next time.